Well, welcome to the Upper Hand podcast. Laura, it's awesome to have you on here. I would love for everybody to meet you and introduce you and your business, Top Notch Training, and opportunity to share your story and for us to kind of motivate and get people excited about running a sports business. So thanks for joining.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Kevin. My name's Laura, or in the industry known as Coach Laura these days. I do own Top Notch Training. I've kind of lost track of the years now. It's been over, 8, 9, 10 years, I think. It's kind of been a crazy ride. So I've kind of lost track of time over the past few years on how long I've been doing it. But I've been in the sports performance industry since I got out of college, and I love it. Worked at a couple different facilities, and then eventually decided to open my own. And thus Top Notch Training was born, and it's kind of morphed over the years to be, sports performance, and now to what we are as, a gym for kids, a gym for adults who just really want movement and health and are willing to just come put in the work. I love to work with people that want to be there, want to get better. So if that's an athlete who wants to be the best athlete they can be, great, come into the gym. If that's an adult that just wants to feel good and, hey, I want to get out of pain, great. Well, then let's do movements in a way that an athlete would move. An athlete is the prime mover, and that's what we all strive to be for, as far as like feeling our best is what a peak athlete could be doing. So let's take an adult through some of those motions and have them feeling as good as they can be too. So it's kind of an underlying theme of sports performance, however it can be applied to anybody that wants to come in the gym.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so kind of before we get into like your, some of the hardship of your story, which is exciting, and, being one of the finalists and one of the winners of the Uplift Sports Business Makeover sort of campaign that we ran this year. But a lot of people in our industry do study to get into sports, right, and to train. And so in that regard, your story does relate to a lot of people in our space. Maybe just give a quick overview about, kind of what did you study, where did you study, and how did you, get that first job, or what was your forte into sort of the fitness training space?
Yeah, absolutely. I am from Colorado, so I went to school out in Colorado, University of Northern Colorado, a little smaller school. I originally started in business as my major, didn't do well in that. And it was my mom who actually was like, you know what, you're in the gym all the time. Why don't you look at this exercise science degree? And I was like, what? You can do that? That's amazing. So I ended up loving it. And in my years of college, I don't remember exactly what year, I went to visit my brother, who was still in high school and playing baseball, and had gone to a sports performance gym. And I didn't know what that was, but I was like, I'm up for a workout. Let's go have some fun. Mm-hmm. So I joined him. And I remember walking into this place, and it was just, I think, a husband-wife owned private gym. It wasn't any sort of big franchise. And I loved it. And I love the workout. I love the environment. And I said, that's what I want. Like, this is what I want my life to be. This is so cool. I love the workout. I remember being so sore I couldn't move on the floor that night. I'd never been put through a workout like that. I was an athlete my whole childhood too, but I never really got like a good sports performance training. It didn't really exist then. So to do that, I loved it. And so, I got my exercise science degree. I minored in nutrition just for my own knowledge and background, and then decided it would be fun to just live in Florida. So I looked for internships. My uncle is also in Florida, so I looked around the Tampa area. Turned out at the time, Velocity Sports Performance was looking for an intern. So I said, great, I can go see what Florida is like. I can see what this whole sports performance, working as a coach is like, and I loved it. So I've been in it ever since. And just being around athletes and in that sports performance industry, I've always wanted to just learn whatever I can learn. So, at that facility, they ended up going out of business in 3 years. So I realized at that point, this is what I want to do. I want to keep making myself better and better. So it's just kind of carried through the years. But that was the start of it all.
And so how did you move from, you said Velocity Sports Performance, into starting, Top Notch Training, TNT, in that business? Because I think a lot of people are in that, start in that mindset over there. Maybe there's somewhere they start out, they've spent a decade or so doing that, and now they're ready to, either do their own thing or, contribute more to the place they're at. So we'd be curious kind of what that, leaping from Velocity Sports was like for you, and sort of what was the trigger to make you kind of take the next step?
Yeah, so Velocity went out of business like I said, about 3 years in for me. And I realized I still want to do this, what I want to do. So I found another training job. It actually just became, just a basic personal trainer, as I say, just in a regular wellness gym. And so there I really attached to the head trainers there, and they taught me so much. And I said to myself, I was like, this is where I need to be, because I always wanted to make myself a better trainer, looking for ways to learn. So while I moved into what I would just consider general personal training, I realized there was so much more for me to learn as far as fitness goes. So I was really just trying to stay open-minded. So then I moved into the adult training space on just general personal training. And I realized in my time there that I really miss the athletes, and that I enjoy working with kids, and that I needed that back in my life. So I seeked out another just private sports performance gym in Tampa, and I went to work with them. I only made it about a year there, and I was actually forced out because he moved locations, and I was actually allergic to the new building. So
Yeah.
that kind of forced me to make a decision in life. Was like, okay, I really want to do this, but my drive was that I felt like I could do it better. And I feel like that's kind of what everybody says. That's why we open our own thing. That's why we invent things. I can do it better than what's out there. And so I tried not to be too naive to that thought of like, yes, I can do it better, but how? What am I going to define myself as different? How can I actually do this better? And so I started to, while I was in Tampa, kind of realizing like, yeah, I'm kind of on my way out. What would I do differently if I opened my own? And it was the attention to detail is what really got me. So, at the gym in Tampa I was working with, they had a phenomenal program, and they would write personalized programs for their kids, except I was the one that would go in a little bit more and be like, oh, well, that's hurting you today. Well, let's put your program aside for a second and focus on the thing that's hurting. So that's kind of what I attached to myself as a trainer, was like, wow, okay, I really want to focus on how people are doing kind of in the day to day. So that's where I was like, oh, I can do it better to that degree. So that's where I kind of honed in my specific, like, not just better in general, oh, I can make a fancier gym or I can make more elaborate. It
Yeah.
wasn't that. It was, how do I make the program better if I'm going to define that in my own gym? So that's
Okay.
kind of the detail oriented way that I went.
Yeah, and that's kind of gets us to the TNT, and maybe explain and walk through kind of what you're offering today for folks, in that space, and how you are really personalizing the training, for younger athletes and adult athletes.
Yeah. So yeah, I personally love working with kids. I love the middle school age. I love the high school age. I love connecting with them. I love training them. So I opened TNT as a sports performance gym because that's what I loved and that's what I knew how to train well. And so that was the baseline that I opened. It was TNT Sports Performance. And then I started to have kids come in. It was like, hey, my friend who's the same age doesn't play sports but really wants to come work out. Can they come? Well,
Hmm.
sure. Why not? Come on in. They're going to have to do the athletic program, but sure, there's no reason they can't come in. So then it kind of just started to change my opinion a little bit on like, ooh, what is exactly a sports performance gym? Are we going to stay defined as only athleticism, or do I want to open that spectrum up a little bit and start to kind of change the program? So I did exactly that. I kind of let, I guess, not really the clientele, but just kind of, I guess I didn't want to be defined by every new client that walked in, but I was willing to stay open-minded about, wow, if I kind of tweak the program, maybe I don't have to be so hardcore sports performance. And so it's kind of blended to now where we're at these days is, if a kid wants to come in and wants to be, yes, I want to be a better athlete, then we can do that. Because right now I have it ran as basically kind of, I call it open gym style, meaning they can come in, they still schedule their time, they're still working with me as a coach, but their program is written for them. They come in, they scan in on their phone, their workout pops up and they go through it. So now if I have an athlete who wants to go through a very intense program, I can also have someone in there who's not an athlete, who just wants to be in shape because they're going through high school, teenage changing years, and they're not staying active in sports. They can come in and stay healthy. Well, now I can have two different kids in there doing their own program, because when I first opened up, I realized that was the struggle, was the athlete with the non-athlete. It wasn't quite blending as well as I wanted it to,
Mm.
but it was my only option. It's what the location demanded as far as space. It's kind of what my schedule was driving. So when I opened the second location, it was, wow, let's kind of split this a little bit. Let's let whoever wants to come in can come in. I will write them the appropriate program, and then we can just go from there. So if someone's having some injury related, maybe we need to step back from a hard program. Let's do a 6-week recovery. Cool. So it's really just become kind of an open gym style, whatever you need in the moment, let's hit those goals kind of a gym.
Yeah. Great. And
Yeah.
I think this is obviously very exciting for me because I know the backstory here. But for people listening, they won't. And I'd love for you to share, on a personal level, kind of that story of hardship. You had, a pretty significant accident, happened to you on that really had personal and professional setbacks. And, I don't want to give away your story. So I will let you kind of share that, because I think it relates to a lot of people in the, starting a business, running a business has its challenges, and everybody has, their own personal struggles that go with it, particularly when you're running a small business. So I would love for you to, kind of share with folks, what that setback was and how you overcame it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is kind of the big detail I left out too, as far as why the gym is what it is these days, is it would have been 2018. I was trying to transition. My first location had a 3-year lease on it that was coming up. And so I was trying to transition to a much larger space. And I was running into every single struggle you could possibly throw at me. It was so much that I was like, what is this world that I'm living? It's not making sense. Why am I running into these really crazy issues, mostly with the city and the zoning, saying I can't go into this new space? So I was really doing my best to fight and try to get things changed for that. Meanwhile, it's about a 6-month process. It's very frustrating for me that I'm trying to get this new space open and I'm battling the city. And with this, my frustration is rising and more, and stress is rising, and my worry for the gym is starting to become very real, of like, I don't know if I'm going to have a home, because the city eventually ends up denying me. I can no longer move into a spot I thought I had secured. Well, I had already given up the space as well. So I am being forced out of my current gym location, and I don't know what to do. So with that, I did have somebody else who knew me and was able to kind of shuffle me into their space that they had vacant. So luckily I was kind of able to make a very rough transition and at least keep training those that wanted to train. So in this very messy process, I decided to take a weekend off. Like, you know what? I just need a weekend to clear my head. And so I went up and visited clients who had invited me to their lake house, went water skiing for the first time. And it was just a bad accident. It was really what it was. My ski didn't come off, so I had a very major knee injury and ended up vascularly. That was the bigger issue. The arteries and veins behind my knee got too stretched out. So spent 10 days in the hospital. Luckily, I had a phenomenal surgeon. Didn't lose my leg, because that's the last thing I remember going into surgery was, we don't know if we can keep your leg or not. Let's hope so. Let's go. And the next thing I woke up to was, my leg in a external fixator, as they call it. It was in rods to keep the shin and the femur aligned. And my knee was still torn. I had a torn PCL. So my shin was dropped back, but it couldn't be in a cast because the shin would have crushed the vascular repair work that they did. So I had to be locked straight for, I think it ended up being, I don't actually remember now, quite a few weeks, 6 weeks, I think 7 weeks before we finally got that off.
Wow.
And I had lost so much of my leg muscle mass. I'd pretty much lost it all in that time of being locked out straight. Yeah. So my right leg just completely went to mush, and it was completely done for. However, I was incredibly grateful though, because I did have phenomenal doctors. And by the time I got in to see the knee surgeon, he said, your knee is structurally fantastic. We're not going to repair it. So I didn't have to really do anything as far as a major knee repair, but I've had to rehab like crazy. And we are now 6 years, because that happened in 2018. It's 2024. So yeah, it was like 6.5 years since that happened. I am still working on recovering. I'm still trying to get all that strength back. But many lessons were taught to me in that I spent about 1.5 years. I completely shut down the business because, again, it was kind of already in disarray anyways. It was already kind of falling apart. So that's where I say the universe had a bigger plan, and it actually allowed me to just shut the business down, looking like kind of in a graceful way. Yeah. So yeah, I shut it down, and I just went 1.5 years on myself, full rehab, mind, body, everything. And also got to question, what do I want to do? This is kind of a life pivotal moment. What do I want to do? My heart said, get the gym back open. So yeah, I did that. I came back It actually ended up being right as COVID started. I decided to come back, and it was February. And then in March of 2020, COVID, at least where I was, decided, you're shut down in Florida. Like, well, okay, well, I've already been living at home for a year and a half. This isn't going to be a big deal. But it just continued to give me more and more time to focus on me and what I wanted the business to be. So again, I kind of took these baby steps. We started back in the park, started getting kids active again once we could. And we've kind of built that back up over the last few years now, able to find another location, and yeah, have kind of rebuilt it back up to kind of go phase two, as I say. But with that whole process, it taught me so much about the body and
Mhm.
injuries and the nervous system, and just everyone that knew me before and then after said I was such a different trainer afterwards. And I took that as the biggest compliment, because they all said it very nicely of, wow, what a big difference this has done for you. So I really got to learn a lot. So now even more so, the gym has another layer of training component to it of, I just kind of understand the nervous system and the body and
Yeah.
stress a little bit more. So it just makes me, I guess, that much better of a trainer to really understand the body.
Yeah, having been through an injury probably makes you a little bit more empathetic to people that have injuries, right? And
That too, yeah.
one thing about your story that I found particularly striking was, just the mental struggle of obviously going through losing the gym, the space, right? When you got shut down, or weren't given an opportunity through the city, requests that you'd made. Then obviously we have COVID, which everybody, had their own struggles there, and you have the injury. And then if I recall, your parents played a pretty big role in coming out to support you, right? And you were having some pretty, dark thoughts. And, I think that's important because mental health is just such a big part of sports, and the importance of focusing on that, particularly when you're working with young teenage, adolescent, aged athletes. So would love for you to
Yeah.
maybe share a little bit about how you overcame that, and how you came out of that dark from underneath that dark cloud, really.
Yeah, absolutely. That is one reason why I do love working with middle school, high school, because it's such a pivotal mental
Yeah.
transition in life. And it's a struggle for every teenager. Some people just get darker and struggle more than others, but it's a teenage process to struggle and grow in life. So I've always liked helping kids through that time and showing them that movement is their strengths. And, they might come in feeling defeated because high school knocks them down and kids can be mean, but then they can come into the gym and it's like, wow, well, I just did this skill that I didn't know I could do. And then you all of a sudden see their body language pick up, and then, you see them smile and you see them walk out a little bit taller. Like, there we go. There's your self-confidence. Go with that. So I've always loved that. And then kind of having to put myself through, what I kind of teach to others. And yeah, that year and a half that I took off for myself, my parents are probably the only reason that I got to stand back up on my feet. They allowed me to move back home. My mom was phenomenal. She's always been a good cook, but mom went all out with making me healthy meals,
Yeah.
which is vital. You've got to have good nutrition if you're going to feel good and make the body feel good. So thank goodness for mom coming through and, playing the mom card fully to her extent, and, taking care of me and giving me the space to heal. My parents never rushed me at all. They were happy I was home. So why not? We'll keep me there. So that gave me the space to really work through all of the emotions. And one of the biggest ones that I remember is, like I said, I had gone into surgery not knowing what's going to happen.
Hmm.
And when I woke up, I I remember thinking how happy I was that I, one, did not have to return to life because it had gotten so messy and so stressful. And all I wanted to do was make it better, but I couldn't. And it was getting so stressful that I was like, what do I do? Well, now I'm in a hospital bed. I can't do anything. This is fantastic. So that kind of caught me off guard when I realized that's my mental, like, I'd rather be in a hospital bed than my working life. That's not okay.
No. Yeah.
So so yeah, that was a good kind of reality shakeup of like, wow,
Mhm.
I've been forced to step back. And my other immediate thought was, I am in the fitness industry. I do work with the body and I know how amazing the body can be. I know my theory is as long as muscles are attached, we're making them better. And I woke up in that hospital bed with my legs still attached. And I was like, you know what? The only thing I can do is go up from here, because as much as I could have dwelled on, oh, why did I do that? Why did I go water skiing? Why did my ski stay stock leak? My one ski popped off. The other one just did not. It just didn't happen. It was just a fluke. Why? I could have sat there and questioned why. And instead, I immediately jumped into, I can only make it better from here.
Yeah.
I can only do what I can from this point forward to make it better. And of course, there are days where it's like, oh, I want to go backwards, and oh, I'm depressed, and oh, I'm frustrated. For sure, those days were there, and they're definitely there in the beginning more than they are, as things start to get better and you get stronger. But in the beginning of being in pain all the time and feeling exhausted all the time and feeling the business just collapse, having all of that stress was a lot. And there were definite days of just genuine frustration and anger. I had also found out that the building I wanted to get didn't get given to me, but it was actually given to a CrossFit. And I was raging mad. I'm not really a mad person,
Yeah.
but that made me so mad of like, wow, here I am trying to follow the rules. The CrossFit breaks the rules and they get to stay. And I learned this, I don't know, a few months after I had been home. And so again, another like teachable moment of, I can be so mad and so resentful to so many things, or I can wipe my slate clean and not give them any more of my energy, any more of my anger. All I can do is fix my life. How do I fix my life? What do I want my life to look like? Yes, it's different. Yes, it's changed. How do I want it to look? So that's kind of what I kept reminding myself of, is I have the ability right now to recreate my entire life, the business, my body, my mind. How do I do it the best way possible? And that's what would always kind of bring me back. So through all the frustrating days, the painful PT days, it was always like, okay, keep going. And you will always find those days that's like, oh, that day is a little bit better. Oh, that day is the proof that all these other days have been paying off. Thank you. Here we go. That's my reassurance. Now I'm re-energized to keep going. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how I got through it, one day at a time. And the
That's
ability to
wonderful.
just accept it.
Well, again, it's an amazing story, and would love for people to be able to connect with you. Where's the best place for people to find you online, and if they wanted to follow you on some of the social, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, I do have 2 Instagrams. My Trainer Laura 1 is kind of my personal page. So Trainer Laura 1 is just there. And then I also have the gym, which is TNT St. Pete. Both of them are there, so you can send me messages there. I'm very quick on emails as well. So if it's just easier, anyone has like a quick direct question or something, would rather email me, it's just Coach Rogers at Verizon.net. Rogers is no D, so Coach Rogers at Verizon.net. So any of that, I'm usually pretty quick to respond to any messages. So I'm always happy to, answer questions, and I'm always happy to help anybody that's willing to get better, whether that's on their body, on their mind, in their career, whatever. If I can help that at any point, it always makes me happy to kind of spread the knowledge, spread the happiness.
Yeah, well, it's always hard to get all the details of a story in a 30-minute podcast, but we appreciate you sharing everything with us. And before I go, I do have to ask if you want to share one thing about your Bougie Belgian waffles, the protein waffles that you're working on.
Yeah, Bougie Belgians. Also, again, a thing that has come because of the injury, because I was at home at my parents' house and again, needing to refuel. My body was going through massive changes, and healthy nutrition is key for that, keeping my mind clear, keeping my body happy. Well, I also am gluten-free, dairy-free, and corn-free. And so sometimes getting foods that make my belly happy can be a little bit tricky. And so I was doing my best to keep inflammation down, because any sort of inflammation would make my knee hurt more. So, okay, very motivated to find a way to get in good calories, get in healthy food. And I love waffles. I just genuinely love breakfast food. So I was making waffles one day and I was like, you know what, let's add some protein to these, because right now waffles is really just sugar and it's not great. I mean, they're delicious. So after, kind of messing around with the recipe, Bougie Belgians was born. And even my family members who are not gluten-free, dairy-free, they actually prefer when I make those waffles. So yeah, we now have a gluten-free, dairy-free, high protein. It's about 20 grams of protein in the waffle. And it still, in my opinion, tastes like a nice fluffy Belgian waffle. So, or pancakes. We've learned we can also turn them into pancakes. So yeah, Bougie Belgians is now the next kind of just something fun. I love the gym and I love doing everything top-notch training, but it's just another way to challenge myself and grow and, hopefully get a healthier food product out there that maybe other people are looking for as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, once you get your first new logoed boxes, you have to sign one and send one to me.
I can absolutely do that. Yeah, hopefully soon.
Here, showing it off.
Absolutely. I can absolutely do that for sure.
Maybe 2 boxes, one so I can eat one and one so I can display it. Yeah.
Totally fair. Totally fair. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, we can do that for sure.
Awesome. All right. Well, hey, thanks again for joining.